Everyone knows it's kind of Memecoin season. We go up and down with that in our crypto space, and that space is surrounded by FOMO, got to get in quick, and things like that. So how do you stay safe in that kind of environment, especially when you're being really coerced to act very quickly and very oftentimes on things you have no idea about? And before we get in there, I'll introduce myself. My name is Brittany Mier y Terán. I am the head of market innovation at Harpy.io. I'm also SheFi Summit alumni, and I'm very happy to be here. And like Maggie said, I couldn't be more of an advocate of SheFi because it's true. Just a couple years ago, I was just participating in hackathons. I remember seeing the SheFiers off in a corner having so much fun. It was like the coolest little club, and I was like, how do I be part of that? And I was honored to be part of that. I joined the cohort right as I was coming into the space full time, and it was the most amazing thing to do in parallel, and I highly recommend it to anyone and everyone. So let's see if all right. So Memecoin season, just crypto in general. There's a lot of FOMO. There's a ton of opportunity in this space, and it's really easy to think that if you're not acting quickly or if you're not taking everyone's suggestions, that you're going to miss out, that you're going to miss your generational wealth or your opportunity to be like the next crypto billionaire. So first rule of thumb is if you're feeling the FOMO, if you feel like you have to do something really quickly, that's really your first sign to just not. Stop, don't click the link in the DM. You know, the first thing I always talk about is triangulating your information. So if something's coming into you from one direction, you need to get some more concrete support for that. So triangulate. What I like to do is suggest that you find at least 3 points for any sort of opportunity or project, right? So it came into you one way. Maybe you're part of SheFi. Go ahead and check in the Discord. Copy that DM in, don't copy the link. Say, hey, does anyone know about this project? Do you know the founder? Do you know what they're working on? Do you know who's involved? Another thing you can do is go check Twitter. You want to be very careful about making sure you look at handles and make sure that nothing's spelt wonky or things like that. But really go ahead, go to their official Twitter, make sure that the links are matching up, make sure that the story's matching up, and really make sure that you're getting the same information from more than one space. You really want to triangulate it. And this is a real shocker to a lot of people, especially when you're talking about security, right? Like when we think about security, you kind of envision like a hacker in a basement that's targeting you, and they have your name and your address, and they know the name of your firstborn child, and that's very possible. But the reality is the majority of loss and theft are mass phishing attacks, right? People aren't targeting you directly most of the time. Even when you're seeing like CTOs get drained and all these things, usually they've actually just become subject to a mass phishing attack. It's true, it's really crazy. And honestly, these attacking enterprise, they're enterprises. It's not a single person. It's a group of people. They have devs, they have BD, they have payroll, they have HR. These are real organizations and entities, and a lot of times there's actually more than one involved. There might be the first one to just get access to your wallet, and they're going to pass that access off, and they're going to try and get somebody else to be malicious with it. So what we need to do is get away from I'm being specifically attacked, and as long as I'm not interesting enough or I don't have good assets, I'm not vulnerable. The reality is every single person in this room is always vulnerable because we're in some way online. Your general rule, don't click a link in a DM. If someone's just emailed you and said they have a groundbreaking opportunity, it's probably a large-scale phishing attack. So, good news is you can do things to protect yourself. Preventative security exists. It's very easy to use, and it's very important. And I will tell you, as somebody in security, I have the unfortunate experience of very frequently getting the sad story of, oh, I was just drained, or my friend just lost $40,000 in assets. And that's the hardest thing to hear as a security professional, because the reality is if somebody equipped somebody with the tools that they need to protect themselves ahead of time, even if you did accidentally click that drainer link or you FOMO'd into a project, you could have at least been protected in part or in full. So what I really like to do, especially in spaces like this where we have everybody from I'm just setting up my wallet or figuring out what a wallet is, I'm new in the SheFi cohort, all the way to I have exited a project successfully and I've founded my second or third project. The reality is that nobody usually has enough preventative security set up. And that's really important not to find that statement overwhelming either. The easiest thing to do is add layers of security slowly. Take an action one day and then be like, okay, I'm gonna add another layer the next week. Something we hear a lot about is hardware wallets, which are really wonderful, as long as you use them as cold storage. If you use your hardware wallet like a hot wallet, it's just as vulnerable as setting up a MetaMask browser extension. So not to fall victim to some of those false sense of securities, oh, I've got a hardware wallet, I'm good, no one can get to me. I wish that was true, but sadly, it's just not. So what we do is we build tooling that, imagine you're super secure, right? You have your seed phrase, it's written on steel, and you put it on 7 different continents, one word's hidden under a glacier, all of that's amazing, but something's gone wrong and you're actually being drained. We actually figured out how to build a tool to save you at that moment. So everything else failed, assets are actually leaving your wallet, and we can get in front of that. So that's how we came to be at Harpy. I'll put this up so you can look at our dashboard while I talk now. We started with front-running protection, which is what I just described. It's preventative security that you set up, and it means that if everything else goes wrong, you're using your hardware wallet, your seed phrase is unavailable, but for some reason the assets are leaving, that we can get in front and protect you. And that was a really inspiring space to be. It was really cool to build. And we were like, well, how can we do more? So in addition to that, what we call advanced protection type thing, we thought it'd be really nice to be able to just come to a space and be able to identify your overall vulnerability. So we built a dashboard. All of our tooling, by the way, is completely free to consumers. And it's not sketchy. We do that because we're able to charge enterprises for our actual engines and things like that so that we can build tooling to keep the general majority safe. So you can come right to our dashboard and just see your overall vulnerability. You can see if you've got a lot of open approvals. You can see if you're at risk for something like an OpenSea signature attack, and just get a general score, right? We're used to doing that with things like our credit or our finances, keeping up and monitoring it. And what I really hope is that in the crypto space, we get a little bit more used to doing that with our assets and our digital identities as well. So we talked about advanced security. Another thing that we do is called two-factor auth. So if you want to get really technical with it, we built an RPC layer. What does that mean? It's mostly gibberish to lots of people. It means that if you are transacting on the network that we built, you can actually have the same banking credit card type experience that you're used to, where if a transaction's going through and it seems a little bit sketchy, especially those of you that traveled in from other countries, you might have experienced that, your credit card's not working right away, we can actually notify you. So you sign the transaction, it's as if it was gonna go through, but if it's not going to one of your predetermined safe places, you actually have to click a link in your email to make it go through. We'll send you an email and we'll say, hey, by the way, you just signed a transaction. You're about to send these assets to this place. Are you sure? And you have to go click the link in that email, which means that if you did something by accident and you sent a risky transaction, nothing's actually going to happen unless you go ahead and approve it. So it's another layer of protection, because I know, especially me, I've been here for kind of a while now. It feels like nothing, but it seems like a while in crypto. I still hold my breath. I'm still reading the MetaMask stuff, and I'm like, oh man, is this what I wanted to do? But the reality is it's nice to have that pardon my language, but oh shit layer, oh, I thought I did it, but that was the wrong one. So we built two-factor auth, which is, I think, a really nice, safe place. I love having it set up for my dad too, especially because, he's not gonna go read and see what the transaction metadata says or anything like that. So we have that advanced security that I just described, and we also have two-factor auth. So now we just talked about 2 different layers of protection you can add. Do you need to add those both in one day? No, by no means. But it's good to start to just add those layers so that you're more and more secure as you move through the space. And then the other thing that we have available on our dashboard is something that you may be more familiar with. It's approval revoking. So that if you have your assets and they are able to leave your wallet, that you can actually revoke that approval, which is a pretty common tool. We're actually really proud to power a lot of the other tools that do similar things because we built a very powerful engine behind us. So in our view, the best crypto space is a safe crypto space. Obviously, as a SheFi, I would love you guys to be using Harpy's tools, but the reality is we also power a lot of the other tools that you may be familiar with as well. So in the end of the day, those layers of protection, wherever they're coming from, that's the goal. We don't want anybody in this room to be like victim to losing their assets because it's just terrible. And unfortunately, I get to hear way too many of those stories. So actually, I swapped those slides. So this is the advanced protection. This is what it looks like. You know, if you have protected assets, you can go to the unprotected assets as well. This is what like your security dashboard would look like. So you show up, you connect your wallet, you get a general score, the same where we're used to on like a Credit Karma or Mint or something like that. You can just see, and you can have the goal of improving that number over time. And it's really important not to make it overwhelming. You just want to take baby steps, right? Everything's a little bit better than nothing. Not sure how I'm doing on time just yet. So the other thing I wanted to just show you is what this 2FA looks like, because I do find that that's sometimes the most confusing part. I've got 2 minutes, so I'm going to go a little bit fast, but feel free to ask me questions after. 2FA, this is what it would look like if you're setting it up. So you would get this sort of information to actually approve or deny the transaction. And basically what we do is we stand between your wallet and the blockchain to give you that extra layer of protection. And the other thing that we do that's really cool, is more specific to somebody that's either starting a community or managing a community, is actually give you the tooling to protect your community overall. So to have a bird's eye view of your community and all of the holders of it. So on the demo up here, I have the Pudgy Penguins dashboard. What you're seeing here is the overall risk score of the entire Pudgy Penguins community. And you can actually get pretty into the minutia. So if you look down here, you can see all of your holders' addresses and what specific attacks they're vulnerable to. In a very small community, this is something very easy to manage, right? You might be able to have the contact information right away. In a larger community, like a 10,000 item launch, you can either use your own internal data, or we can actually port in data that will give you identifying information. So you could have like Twitter handle XYZ is open to the OpenSea signature attack, so that you could actually go and help your community stay safe. And then also in that dashboard, we have some like cool demographics that you can see. I don't know if they're cool. You can see the vulnerability demographics of what's going on. And this is really helpful because if you are taking security initiatives, if you are educating your community, I'm about to get hooked off the stage. You can you can monitor how well that's going and take extra steps to improve it, or say, hey, we did this, this seminar and it worked. Look, our security score went up a little bit. Let's continue to do that. Let's make that easier to access. So before I go get hooked off the stage, feel free to grab the POAP for the SheFi Summit. If you haven't been over to the Harpy table, there's some really fire swag over there. If you missed swag that you want, don't be sad. We'll be at some other events this week. We'll also host some pop-ups where you can come and claim your swag too. Feel free to reach out directly at the table or my email. We're always happy to help. We like working directly with consumers. We love working with projects. We work very closely with consultants, and I'm being engaged. So thank you for your time. This has been wonderful. Thank you for coming to the SheFi Summit. Okay.